This is our second trip to the Land Pavilion for Disney Ride Lore. The first time we covered Living with the Land, and now we'll prepare for takeoff as we cover the history of Soarin'. At one point, you needed to get to the park at rope drop to even have a chance of getting on this ride. As time goes on and newer attractions open, the fervor for this ride has waned. But that hasn't stopped this from being popular no matter what park it's featured in. So without further ado, let's dig into the lore of Soarin'. For a ride that debuted in 2001 on the West Coast, its conception came in 1996, known as Ultraflight, a name you could still see on top of the ride's tower in California Adventure. The original plan was to have a suspended horizontal track along with 3 loading levels, alongside an OmniMax screen to make guests feel like they were really flying over Californian landmarks. Ultimately, the plans were scrapped because Disney deemed the project too expensive. It seemed the project was over before it started, but engineer Mark Sumner made a model using an erector set. This new blueprint would solve the biggest issue of cutting down the loading areas to 3 to just 1. Each seating section would be able to hold 87 guests, and the original film was shot in 48 frames per second, which is twice the rate of normal films. To ramp up the immersion, there are subtle vertical movements that are synced with the movie, as well as scents being piped in to match which landmark you're currently flying over. But over the years, there have been several versions of the movie that we have grown to love. February 8th, 2001. Soarin' over California opened on the West Coast's California Adventure. It paid homage to California's rich aviation history, featuring profiles from such aircrafts as the P-51 Mustang, SR-71 Blackbird, and the Bell X-1. The ride itself would feature Californian landmarks like the Golden Gate Bridge, Napa Valley, Lake Tahoe, and of course, ending in Disneyland. The ride remained mostly unchanged until its refurbishment in 2015. In 2016, a version was developed for Shanghai Disney called Soarin' Over the Horizon. Similar to the original film, it would swap out Californian landmarks for popular tourist destinations around the globe. And on June 17th of 2016, the same film would replace Disney and Epcot's version, but change the name to Soarin' Around the World. Tokyo Disneyland would get their own slightly altered version called Soaring Fantastic Flight. The two changes are the Paris scene is replaced with Tokyo at sunset with Mount Fuji in the background, and instead of ending in Disneyland or Epcot, there's a flyover of Tokyo Disney Sea. But yet another version of Soarin' is coming down the pipeline. At the time of this recording, Soaring Across America will be opening this summer for American parks. Personally, I've always been a fan of Soarin' over California, but I'm interested to see what this new iteration will bring. Soarin's ride music was rearranged and implemented in the mobile game Disney Sorcerer's Arena. Sticking with the ride music, the last 3 notes are very similar to the last 3 notes of Beauty and the Beast. You may think that Tinkerbell makes an appearance at the end of all versions, but that's only true for the American parks. Soarin' Over the Horizon in Shanghai Disney is the only version to be shown at a traditional Magic Kingdom-like park. Since the first version was Soarin' over California, the Orlando version was made to feel like guests were actually boarding a flight to the West Coast. It even had its own flight number of 5505. But like everything else in Disney, that number held significance as those numbers correspond to Soarin's opening date of May 5th, 2005. Soarin' wasn't the first Epcot attraction to film at the Great Wall of China. That honor would go to the 1982 film for the Chinese Pavilion's Wonder of China. But the location used for Soarin' Around the World wasn't an accident. It's the same exact location of the Great Wall of China Disney used for its 80s counterpart. And finally, if you thought that the queue to get to your theater is pretty long, that's because it is. Epcot clocks in at a span of 300 acres, and Soarin' itself takes up 60,000 square feet of that. That's not including the rest of the Land Pavilion. But that'll do it for this episode of Disney Ride Lore. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you'll join me on my next upload. But let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover in the future. So until next time, drop a like if you enjoyed this, subscribe if I earned it, and thank you for watching.